Good morning. Congratulations and blessings to all the mothers, at whatever stage they are in life. Moms-to-be, brand new moms, grandparents, great-grandparents, and those who come to help when moms aren't there. I think of the women who have influenced me, my mother most of all, also my grandmother and my mother-in-law, and I have fond memories and good recipes from them all. Also, I have 3 daughters and a daughter-in-law that I must say I admire as I watch them become mothers. And I have learned valuable insights from them. Earlier this week, a friend sent a quote to me by Jerry Windley Doust, as written in the Dynamic Catholic. Sometimes God just likes to spend time with us. How often do we take time to sit quietly from our frenetic lives and just listen? This week I've been pacing around my home, trying to channel God or anyone else who might be listening. I've been practicing. Pacing, walking around, hands clasped, and I caught sight of myself in a mirror in the living room, and I couldn't help but chuckle. I was doing more talking and not listening. I was reminded of how when I was a girl, I always wanted to be either a saint or a nun, not necessarily in that order. But I'd practice. I'd put a veil, a scarf, whatever I had around, and continue pacing so that I would be ready when I was called to be either one. In the first reading, the early church was rapidly growing, attracting people from many different regions. Spreading the gospel did not always go smoothly. People spoke different languages, and this led to perceived differences in treatment. Specifically, the Greek Hellenists were referring to their widows, whom they felt were not being adequately taken care of. The apostles chose 7 men from the Hellenists to help resolve the conflict. Working together in community, they divided the work to be done between the 7 that were chosen and themselves. Note that the actual decision that was made was not as important, but as the way in which it was decided, which is working in community. The second reading reminds the early church to follow Christ, even in the face of rejection and suffering, reminding us that even Jesus Christ was rejected by many human beings, but chosen and special in the eyes of God. He is referred to as a living stone, and like living stones, we are asked and encouraged to let ourselves be built into a spiritual house, a new kind of temple, because he is the sure foundation of our lives of faith. In 2000, the National Conference of Catholic Bishops were requested by 35 bishops for current and detailed guidelines on art, architecture, and worship. 4 years, more than 1,000 people, and several hundred bishops assisted in bringing this revision of the document, which is used today. I have a copy, and this is one from which I teach and give lectures from. It's called Built of Living Stones. The suggestions and guidelines have been carefully prepared and intended to serve as the basis for the decision-making at the local level, and can also become the foundation for development of diocesan guidelines and legislation governing liturgical art and architecture. And we indeed are those living stones that all make this happen in our environment for the good of all and the enhancement of liturgy. All of these readings since the second Sunday of Easter are building and shaping us for what is to come. The Holy Spirit, the Paraclete. The Greek word of this means one who stands at the side of. In the gospel, Jesus doesn't want to let our hearts be troubled. Have faith in God. Have faith also in me. Can you imagine how difficult it must have been for the early church? We have the advantage of 2,000 years of reflection and hindsight and a sure understanding of the way, and still we struggle and question. Isn't this so like our children and grandchildren? And to them we say, we've done that. We know. We have some experience doing that. We'll show you how to do it. We'll help. Or that's not the way I do it. Or sometimes you did what? When they're young, they're eager for new things and they want to learn what you know. Then at a certain age comes the eye roll or the half-lidded look. And then polite disdain, and they will be happy to do it on themselves, thank you, and make their own decisions, thank you. Eventually, life lessons take over, and one day they come to the realization that perhaps the parent actually did know what they were talking about. However, we must always be willing to listen. Some of the youngest among us can have grand observations and be very profound. Sometimes they seem to have a direct line to Jesus and their guardian angel. In my Father's house, there are many dwelling places. If there were not, would I have told you that I am going to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back again and take you to myself, so that where I am, you may also be. Isn't that just like a parent? Always preparing, always nurturing, always taking care of, always teaching, and preparing your child for what the future holds, and teaching them about their faith, about Jesus and God the Father and the Holy Spirit, more often by example and doing, and less by big discussion. Teaching them how to find courage and resourcefulness within themselves to resolve the problem or the situation before them. And then, of course, prayer. Those prayers continue throughout their lives, and then, of course, you expand them as each grandchild comes. I'm grateful to be part of all of our children's lives. It makes me smile. They, as well as their spouses, are all very good stewards of the golden rule. Do unto others. They are often going out of their way to help someone, sometimes even those they don't know. They are kind people, and this is reflected in their children as well. They teach their children about Jesus and loving God, each in their own way, and their children are a reflection of God's love. The Father continues to lead us by showing us the way, by showing us the love of the Son for the Father, and doing good works in the name of the Father. So I believe we are challenged to go out and spread the gospel by our good works and actions, and always be ready to meet the God of surprises in the most unusual places, sometimes right in front of us. And often when we're not expecting him, the opportunity arises. So take the time and be quiet and listen.